هلو. هو كده هم مفتوح عليهم ولا؟ انا حاسه ان مش سامعه حاجه.
Diamonds.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
Can you hear
Good
me?
morning.
Is my voice clear for you?
Yes. Yes, miss.
What about the screen?
Teacher, can you hear your voice? Teacher, can you hear my voice?
Okay. What about the screen?
Picture.
Can you see the screen?
Yeah, the screen is good. Yes.
Okay.
See the screen.
طيب. If you have your storybooks, I will. You can get it. If you don't have it, look at my screen. Okay?
Okay.
طيب. I'm going to mute your mics so you can hear me. This is a story session and you need to hear very well. Okay? Okay, get ready.
I have a story booklet.
First, we will deal with the book. Get your
I
book.
have the storybook.
Okay, if you don't have it, it's on your screen.
Miss, what is the Beauty and the Beast?
No, the selfish giant. The selfish giant.
Okay. I have the booklet story, not the story.
We're going to have a story session. The name of our story is The Selfish Giant. The Selfish Giant. If you took it during the exam, you will have the book. If you don't have the book, if you don't have the book, you can see on my screen. Here I'm sharing a screen for you to watch with me, read with me, and of course if you have the book will help you. In your books you have the cover of the book. On the cover we have a picture of a giant man, a very big man, and some children. This is the cover of your book. And the first page is like this one, the one on the screen. In the first page, it's about discussing the cover page. Cover discussion. Look at the cover of the book. Answer the following questions. What can you see in the picture? What do the giant and the boy look like? Now I'm reading, it's written on your page. We have a giant and we have a boy. What do the giant and the boy look like? What are they doing in the picture? How do you think they feel? How do they feel? Are they happy? Are they sad? Are they angry? Where and when do you think the story take place? This story, where did it happen? Where did it take place? From the picture you can tell that it's a garden. After that we have discussion for the cover. This is number 2. Read the blurb on the back cover. Read about Oscar Wilde and answer the question. This page is about the cover and the author. The author. Look at this man. Oscar Wilde. That's his name. Oscar Wilde. He is the author. The author means the writer, the one who writes the story. The author means the writer. What is a writer? The one who writes the story, who writes the events and things happened in the story. His name is Oscar Wilde. In the next page, we have information about the author. Oscar Wilde was born in Dublin on October 16th, 1854. On that year he was born. His father was a doctor and his mother was a writer. His father was a doctor and his mother was a writer. He studied at Trinity College. Oscar was a very good student. He was clever and he enjoyed writing. He studied at Trinity College. This is the name of the college, in Dublin. And at Oxford University in England. It's a very famous university in England. When he finished university, Oscar traveled to London, Paris, and the USA. He traveled a lot to London, Paris, and the USA. While he was in London, he met Constance Lloyd. That's the name of a lady, a woman. He met her, they married, and had 2 sons. Oscar worked as a teacher, and he also wrote reviews for newspapers. He was writing articles and reviews for newspapers. He later became the editor of the magazine, and he published a book of poems in 1888. So he was the head or the editor of the magazine, and he published a book of poems. That's for him, his book, his own book. A book of poems in 1888. He wrote a collection of fairy tales called The Happy Prince and Other Tales. One of the stories in this collection was The Selfish Giant. So he had a storybook, a collection of fairy tales, tales and stories that are imaginary. One of these stories was called The Selfish Giant, which is the one we are going to deal with. He also wrote many stories like The Picture of Dorian Gray. He wrote also plays like Lady Windermere's Fan. He became a famous writer, and he became quite rich. After writing a lot of novels, he became rich. He wrote several other plays, including An Ideal Husband, The Importance of Being Earnest, and many other short stories containing or including The Canterville Ghost. A lot of stories. That's about the author, the one who writes. After that, we have the plot. The plot means the main part of the story, the event of the story. The Selfish Giant has got a beautiful garden. The children love to play there, but the giant is selfish. What's the meaning of selfish? Selfish means self-centered. He thinks only about himself. What does he want? What does he need? And he doesn't think of others. He is selfish. He doesn't want anyone to play in his garden. He builds a wall around it so the children can't play there. Winter comes to the garden and stays here until one day the children return and bring spring with them. The giant is sorry for being so selfish, and he has the children play, and he lets the children play in his garden every day. So this is the summary of the story. At the beginning he was selfish. Something happened to him. He learned his lesson, and he let the children play in his garden, and he regret being selfish. In the next page, we have the characters of the story, people and characters in the story. The main character is the selfish giant, the children, the little boy. You can read a small summary about each one of them: the selfish giant, the children, and the little boy. In the other page, we also have other characters: hail, spring, summer, autumn, north wind, snow, winter, frost. All of these are characters who will appear at the story, and we are going to know them one by one. While dealing with the story, you're going to know them at a time. Let's go to the first chapter. The first chapter. What's the name of our chapter? The Beautiful Garden. So, the chapter happens at a beautiful garden. Listen to it. I will try to play it. I can't play it. I will see if I can play it. If I can't, I will read it for you. It seems to me not working, so I will read it. A long time ago, a giant lived in an old stone castle near a pretty little village. A giant, what is a giant? A giant is an imaginary man who is larger than other men. He is larger, big in size than any other man. He is imaginary. Imaginary means from our imagination, not in real life. A long time ago, a giant lived in an old stone castle. Stone means rock. Do you know the rocks you can find at the street? Near a pretty village. The giant's garden was very beautiful. How does it look like, the garden? It was very beautiful. It was a large garden with soft green grass. It was large garden with soft green grass. There were beautiful flowers in the grass, like colorful stars. There were peach trees all around the garden. Peach is a kind of fruit. You eat it especially in summer. Peach trees are all around the garden. In the spring is one of the seasons. Now we know that during the year we have 4 seasons. Summer, what's after summer? Summer, winter, autumn, and spring. These are the 4 seasons. In the spring, there were pretty little pink and white blossoms. Blossoms are the small flowers that comes on a tree. The flower, before it opens and becomes big, it's very small and it's called blossom. So here, I will read from this. In the spring, there were pretty little pink and white blossoms on the trees. In the autumn, there was delicious, juicy fruit on the trees for the giant to eat. So on the trees, in the spring, there are pretty white blossoms. And in the autumn, there was delicious, juicy fruit on the trees for the giant to eat. What is else there in the garden? Pretty birds sat on the branches of the trees and sang sweet songs. So the garden was always full of music. It was a wonderful place. The giant was very proud of his beautiful garden. He was very happy and showing off of his beautiful garden. But he was also very selfish. He wasn't thinking of anyone, only thinking about himself. He didn't want to share it with anyone. He didn't want to share his garden with anyone. The children in the village wanted to play in the garden, but the giant didn't let them. He shouted when he saw them draw near. Now we said he is selfish. He doesn't want anyone to play in his garden. The children wanted to play, but the giant didn't let them. He shouted when he saw them. When he saw them draw near. Draw near means come near to the garden. He shouted at him, "Don't come here, don't come and play in my garden." The children were scared of the giant, so they stayed away. The giant didn't have any friends in the village. He has no friends. But he didn't care. He had his beautiful garden and he didn't have to share it with anyone. So, in this page, what did we talk about? We talked about the beautiful garden. Where did the giant live? He lived in an old stone castle near a pretty village. What does he have? He has a beautiful garden. How does the garden look like? It was a large garden with soft green grass and beautiful flowers. What was there in the garden? There were pink and white blossoms. There were delicious juicy fruits on the trees. There were pretty birds sat on the branches of the trees and sang sweet songs. There were children. The children liked to play in the garden. But did the giant let them play? No, he didn't let them play. When he saw them draw near, he shouted at them and he said, "Don't come and play in my garden." He has no friends, but he has the garden and he doesn't want to share it with anyone. It's for him and only him. Let's turn the page 9. One day, the giant went to visit his friend, the Cornish ogre. One day, the giant went to visit his friend. He decided to go for a visit for his friend. What's the name of his friend? The Cornish ogre. Ogre is a creature that is giant and doesn't look very pretty or handsome. Who lived far away in another country? He lived far away in another country. The giant went to visit him. The giant was away for a very long time. He stayed at his friend's house or his friend's country for a very long time. When the children saw that the giant was not at home, they were very happy. At last, they could go inside his garden. So, every afternoon, on their way home from school, the children played in the beautiful garden. What did they also do in the garden? They ran around on the soft green grass. They stopped to smell the beautiful flowers, and they sat under the fruit trees to eat the delicious, juicy fruit and listen to the birds singing their sweet songs. They couldn't believe they had that beautiful place all to themselves. They can't believe it. They have that beautiful place for themselves. We are so happy here. We hope the giant never comes home. That's what the children are saying. Who said this? The children. They said, "We are so happy. We hope the giant never comes home." So in this page, we said that one day the giant went to visit his friend. What's the name of his friend? The Cornish ogre. He lived far away in another country. Did the giant come back quickly? No, the giant was away for a very long time. When the children saw that the giant was not at home, they were very happy. Why? Because at last they could go inside the garden and enjoy playing there. So every afternoon on their way home from school, after school, the children played in the garden. They ran around the soft green grass. They stopped to smell the beautiful flowers. They sat under the fruit trees to eat the delicious juicy fruit. They listened to the birds singing their sweet songs. They couldn't believe that they had that place for themselves. They can't believe it. Okay, here, this page, you can find it in your booklets. When you take the story booklet, you can find this page and the other coming pages. The first page is about the vocabulary. A giant, what is a giant? An imaginary man who is much bigger and stronger than ordinary people. Imaginary means from your imagination. He is much bigger and stronger than the ordinary people, ordinary man, the normal man. The word stone, it means rock, like the one you can throw on the street or play with on the street, or we use it in many other things. Pretty means beautiful. Little means small. Blossoms is the plural for blossom. What are blossoms? Small flowers on the trees. Juicy, full of juice. Sweet songs, nice songs. Proud of his garden, very happy about his garden. Selfish, care only about himself and doesn't care about other people. Share, to use something with others. To share something, to use it with others. Draw near, to come near. These are the vocabulary. After that, we have questions. Where did the giant live? Describe the garden. Who did the giant visit? What did the children do in the garden? This one. The questions. Where did the giant live? The giant lived in an old stone castle near a pretty village. Where did he live? In an old stone castle near a pretty village. Describe the garden. It was a large garden with soft green grass and beautiful flowers. Number 3, who did the giant visit? The giant went to visit his friend, the Cornish ogre. Number 4, what did the children do in the garden? The children played in the beautiful garden. They ran around on the soft green grass. They stopped to smell beautiful flowers. They sat under the trees. They ate the juicy fruits and listened to the birds singing sweet songs. Complete. There were pink and white on the trees. Pink and white what? Pink and white blossoms. The giant was very of his garden. He was very what of his garden? He was very proud of his garden. The children eat delicious and juicy what? Delicious and juicy fruit. The children listen to the singing. What can you listen to singing? They listen to the birds singing sweet. Sweet what? Sweet means nice. Sweet what? Sweet songs. The children listen to the birds singing sweet songs. And that's the story. Let me just try to do something. I was trying to play the audio, but I don't know why it's not available. Okay, I just read it for you, and I explained the new vocabulary. I answered the 2 pages of the booklet. I don't know if you have any questions. Let me just try to do something. Can you hear me? Just a second. That's all for the English today. I'm sorry I'm not able to open the mics for you. I will learn how to do it and we can do it later. Thank you very much. Try to read the story by yourselves, study the words, answer the questions by yourself to check if you understood or not. Thank you very much.